as you do start having more financial resources and you do get to the point you just described, Moshe, where it's like you have to get beyond just referrals, there are still some things you can do digitally that are going to help you get more referrals.
Well, hello and welcome to another amazing podcast guest interview. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I am excited because, we're talking about my second favorite topic in the world, which is marketing. My first favorite topic is money, but hey, you need to market to make money. But you can also throw a lot of money down the toilet in marketing. Some of our best work as fractional CFOs for law firms is by helping them identify the marketing that's not working and cutting the fat, cutting that budget out. So there's mistakes to be had in marketing, which is why I love having marketing conversations here on the podcast, because our job is to bring you the best information, to make it real for you, to help you be a better marketer, a better consumer of marketing services by entering into the marketplace of marketers. Right. I'm making this really confusing. I don't know why I need to do that, but entering into the marketplace of marketers as a knowledgeable consumer is really, really important. Not all marketers are created equal, and there's a lot of people out there who talk a big game, but don't produce a big result. So really want to help you to be educated. And that's why I love these conversations. That's why it's my second favorite topic to talk about on the Profit with Law podcast. All right, my guest today is Danny Decker. Danny Decker is partner and co-founder of Spotlight Marketing and Branding. In addition to building his team, he frequently speaks at events and workshops and hosts multiple podcasts on the subject of business and marketing. His books, The Automatic Marketing Machine and Marketing Simplified, are available on Amazon. Danny lives in Huntersville, North Carolina, with his wife and their 2 kids. Danny, welcome to the show.
Moshe, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, how old are your kids?
So I have a 20-year-old and an 11-year-old.
Wow, that is a gap.
It is a gap.
Yeah, I've got, my oldest is 26 and my youngest is 22 months.
Okay.
So I have a gap too, but there's a lot of kids in between. So I have 7.
Well, then let me ask you this question. When does it start to get easy?
I will tell you that for my 26, 24, and 23-year-old, it is very easy at this point. A lot of people would disagree, grandparenthood, whatever, but they're all self-sufficient. They, when they're asking for something, it's usually a big ticket item, but generally they're able to go through their day and not need me, which is sad and great at the same time.
That gives me some hope for the future. Thank you for that.
But definitely not until college is over. you got a few more years, even with the 20-year-old, and even then, it really depends on how mature they are. But I was blessed with really amazing kiddos, and my kids, the worst that they did to me once they were adults is they decided to get married at the same time. We made 3 weddings in 3 months and 3 days.
No.
Yeah. So just the way that all happened just made it a crazy season. And then they also decided to all get pregnant at the same time. I don't know if they decided to do it or collaborate or whatever, but my first 2 grandchildren were born 16 hours apart. And then the third one was 6 weeks later. So they're all the same age, and it's beautiful, especially when they do get together. They didn't stay local. They all happen to be here now. Actually, one will be here tomorrow, and then they'll all be here now briefly. But it's really cool to see that, they're able to put their babies together and have them interact with each other. And they're finally at that age of, starting to recognize things around them. They're 9 months, 10 months, around there. So really, really cool to watch that happen. But yeah, no, that's, doing things together is really the thing that they do to me to keep me on my toes.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I feel like having grandkids is probably a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's, I'm experiencing it in a different lens than a lot of other people since I still have a nearly 2-year-old myself, which makes it very different than, hey, I'm going to go for a week to my grandkid and, hang out with them. But still, it's an incredible journey. And I mean, these kids these babies are amazing. They're the cutest things in the world. So,
Love it.
but, just like parenting, running a business is a very similar journey, right? Like we need to raise this thing from being an infant that needs every single ounce of energy you have to survive. And then we try to raise it to a place where it can be kind of self-sufficient and know what it needs to eat. And in that growth, there's the marketing journey, which is what we're going to jump in and talk about. So, Danny, real quick, just let our listeners know how in the world you got into marketing, your backstory of starting Spotlight. I know that you and John are you co-founders?
So I'm a co-founder, and my partner is his name is Mark. Actually, John
Mark.
is a team member, a valued part of our team here, but not one of the original founders, not one of the owners.
Right. That's right. I remember now. I apologize for putting him in that bucket, but yeah. So you found a co-founder to start it with. So I'm curious about that journey. If you can just share that story with us.
Yeah, well, so I actually majored in finance and I graduated in 2009, right, as Wall Street melted down. So that's a great way not to get a job in finance. And so instead I went into the marketing field. But, I joked that it actually started way before then. I grew up a third culture kid, if you've heard that expression. So my parents were part of a nonprofit. And so I spent most of my childhood in West Africa, moving around a lot. And so I probably went to, 8 different schools in my 12 years of schooling and lived in, 10 different houses before I turned 18. And one of the things that does, for better or for worse, is it teaches you how to kind of quickly adapt to new situations, how to create relationships, how to kind of read into like the culture of each place you go. And it from a very early age, I was kind of forced to become a good communicator, right? Understand who I'm talking to, understand what they value, understand how to get my message across to them. And I was doing that at age 8. And, a few years later, start a marketing agency, realized, oh man, like I'm doing what I, always did as a child. So it really did start back about age 8. And, and then I thought I wanted to be in finance and went to school for finance. And then the world melted down and I ended up getting a job working in a very small marketing agency, and then pretty quickly fell in love with it. And a couple of years later, launched my own thing with my partner, Mark.
Now, do you only serve law firms?
98% of what we do, 100% of our marketing is geared towards law firms. We do sometimes work with some other professional service firms when it makes sense, but we're passionate about working with lawyers. I know people love to joke about lawyers, but like when you think about the amount of good that profession does and the impact that we're able to have when we help our law firms grow, right? Help all the great things that they do. We're just really passionate about it. I really enjoy. Lawyers are some of the smartest, most motivated folks out there. I have a bunch of lawyers in my family, so I think it was always meant to be.
So how did that niche happen? So people ask me that all the time. Like, I'm an accountant. How in the world did I start working with law firms? I'm curious how you ended up serving law firms as a niche.
Yeah, well, I'll be just completely transparent. It wasn't intentional. We started our agency in 2011. My partner and I both lived in Miami, Florida. And, our first 5 clients were 5 different industries. There was a landscaper, a restaurant, an electrician, I think a nonprofit, and a law firm. And, fortunately, one of the smart things we did early on was invested in working with a business coach. And one of the first things he told us was you really need to have a niche. You have to have a focus for all the obvious reasons, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have in the world of marketing, like marketing for a restaurant is almost unrecognizable in a lot of ways to marketing for a law firm. I mean, sure, there's some crossover, but very different, right? Absolutely. And so, so we sat down and we worked with a coach through this process and just kind of identified what are the industries that, have a need for our services? What are industries that we can serve at a high level? What are industries that have financial resources that they can afford to invest into marketing, right? And we kind of narrowed it down. And for a variety of reasons, law firms was our choice. And once we made that strategic decision and then geared all of our marketing towards law firms, we grew pretty quickly in that direction.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you had a business coach early on. So many people don't realize the value that that brings. And there's a lot of law firm owners who have a business coach and many that don't. And by the way, folks, if you're listening to this and you're kind of stuck at a plateau and you're like trying to figure out how to break through that, how to get to the next level, you can't figure out what's keeping you from getting there, you might want to book a free strategy session with us here at Profit with Law. In that call, what we're going to do is we're going to help you identify what 12 months from now looks like, what might be getting in your way of getting there, and how to overcome that. So if you want that strategy to get you to that next level and you want it absolutely free, book a 30-minute session with us at profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. Thank you, Danny, for the tee up there for my little promo.
I just really believe it, Moshe, like having a coach, having an outside perspective, particularly somebody that understands money and financials the way you guys do. I mean, it's just completely necessary. It's completely necessary.
Awesome. Let's jump into some marketing conversation. I love your story. Love the fact that Africa, I would have never guessed, right? Let's talk about specifically law firm owners. They're going to market. One of the things you told me in the green room is that there's something that a lot of lawyers don't do in the process of going through and deciding where to spend their marketing dollars and stuff like that. And that is identifying who is their ideal client, right? Like who is their ideal market. And now I intuitively and through all the training that I've gone through, I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to marketing, right? But I'm not a marketer like you. I understand on the periphery what that means and why it's important, but explain to our listeners why this is something that is so important to identify and understand how it affects the actual plan or path that you take on the marketing journey of client acquisition. And finally, how does one go about identifying this?
Yeah, love it. In all honesty, this is a lesson that we've learned over time. A lot of marketers, a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of lawyers who are doing their own marketing, if you don't have enough business, the instinct is I'll do whatever it takes to win that next client. And what you realize over time is there are some clients that are the right fit for your law firm from an energetic perspective, from a values perspective, people who treat you and your staff with respect, right? Clients who are willing and able to pay their bills on time, right? There are a lot of problems that are created when you have the wrong clients coming into your law firm. And, a big part of it, and this is maybe a whole separate discussion, I don't know if we'll have time to, is just this idea that just like I think it's really important that, we as a marketing agency chose a niche back in 2011. I'm a big proponent that law firms really need to zero in on a practice area or some related practice areas, just because it becomes so much easier to build operational systems if you're not reinventing the wheel every time, right? So a mistake a lot of young lawyers make, Moshe, I'm sure you see this, is, they practice door law, and it's, estate planning today and then a DUI case tomorrow, and it's really hard to systematize and scale. And so, a big part of the conversation, which frankly, this isn't something we necessarily get into. I think maybe it is something that you guys get into if you're working with a growing business, but is getting clear on that niche, right? But then even within that, right, we work with a lot of estate planners. Okay, it's like, who do you want? What do your ideal clients look like? Are you looking for the retirees with significant net worth? Are you looking for young parents who are getting into estate planning for the first time? Two great niches to serve, very different. You're going to market differently. You're going to serve them differently. So that's kind of one is getting clear on what that ideal client looks like. And I love that you phrased the question the way that you did, because there's a lot of theoretical ways to answer that question, right? I do a lot of speaking, a lot of workshops, and I can ask people to raise their hand and tell me what your ideal client looks like. My favorite exercise from having done this many, many times is, as a law firm, print out your client list. over, the last 200 client engagements you've had, and I want you to go down that list and I want you to highlight your 5 favorite clients. And I want you to then look at those 5 clients, and I want you to think through why. What do they have in common? And sometimes it's obvious, right? Well, they're of a certain net worth, or they live in a certain area, or they're men, or they're women, or they're certain age, right? What are the commonalities? And the reason I like to do it this way is because then it's grounded in reality. It's not just theoretical. Like, those are 5 clients that you actually found, engaged, won, served, feel good about. And so that's where that's what we're gonna start with as a building point for what your ideal clients look like, right? Because it's actually based in reality. They exist, right? Sometimes lawyers say, well, they list off this list of qualifications, and I'm like, great, but do those people even exist? Like, sure, do you want me to wave a magic wand and conjure them up out of thin air? I'm not able to do that. But if you can show me, 5 clients that if you could clone them and attract them over and over and over again to your law firm, you'd be thrilled. That's great. That's where we can help you do that.
Yeah, I love that exercise. It's so easy to do. It's so clear. As a parent, it becomes very difficult, right? Like, which of my children are my favorite kids, right? But when it's clients, it's a lot like they make it easy for you. Yeah. It's kind of like the ones that are misbehaving are the ones I don't like, right?
Well, and then the part B is you get out the red highlighter and you highlight the 5 worst, and then that's instructive too, because that tells you, I always say marketing is a screen. It's not an open window, right? You don't want everything flying through your marketing screen. You want the fresh air. You don't want the mosquitoes, right? So it's screening out the wrong fits and attracting the right ones.
Yeah, I was just talking to another industry leader, professional, and he said, a great mentor once told him that marketing is intended to attract, to propel just as much as it is intended to attract, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're not only attracting the people we want, but we're also pushing away the people we don't want. And I think that's what doing that exercise with the red highlighter, doesn't matter what color, as long as you understand what it means. But identifying who it is that you don't want is just as powerful as identifying who it is that you do want, because sometimes when we're ready to put a message out into the marketplace, we don't put it out there because we're like, oh, it might offend this other person, right? And what you don't realize is that is the most powerful marketing messaging, is the ones that are polarizing. It is the ones that we're attracting somebody, but we're pushing somebody else away.
Yeah.
If somebody is not trolling the internet and commenting on your post and telling you a bunch of negative feedback, you haven't done it right. So really powerful stuff. Interestingly, this same exercise can be done from a business perspective. It's taught by Mike Michalowicz in the book, The Pumpkin Plan. And in that book, he basically walks you through how to up-level the efficiency of your business by identifying the top 20% of clients or the bottom 20% of clients, and essentially firing the clients that are in that bottom 20%, right? And if you constantly do that, you're constantly up-leveling the clients you're serving. And what does better clients give you? It gives you more profit, because it ties up less resources to serve those clients. You're collecting fully on the commitment that was made. All that stuff that you shared before of like what identifies a good client, it plays out not just in the marketing lane, but also in the business lane. So love that exercise.
And even just the energy and the enjoyment that your team has coming to the office every day, right? Because your team in a lot of cases are the ones that are on the front lines dealing with these clients. And wouldn't it be great if they were energized and they look forward to it, as opposed to, feeling like the client sucked the life out of them every day and they have to stumble home and you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Earlier you talked about choosing a niche. So I just want to point our listeners, I have an episode I recorded way back in the yonders of time, August 13th of 2019, called Why Choosing a Niche Will Skyrocket Your Firm. It's episode 29 of this podcast that's nearing 500 or maybe beyond 500 by the time this gets released. I'm not sure what number we are in the pecking order, but today we have 493 episodes out there when we're recording this, but I batch record. So I'm not sure where this recording will fall out. But you can get there going to profitwithlaw.com/029, profitwithlaw.com/029. I'll take you to that episode. And I go deep into why a niche and how to go about choosing that niche and all of that stuff. So great oldie to go back and listen to in your podcast player or on your web browser. We've got the audio recording right there in the browser. So you identify your ideal client, you go through this exercise. Now what are we looking for? What does that now drive in the marketing process?
Yeah. I think of it as there's 3 M's when it comes to marketing, and I didn't make this up. There are plenty of Dan Kennedy is one of the OGs in the direct marketing world, and he's the first person I heard talking about this. But there's just 3 variables you have to get right. It's your market, it's your message, and it's your media. And market means get clear on who your ideal clients are. That's the process we just talked about. So then the next step is, okay, now what is the message that is going to attract those ideal clients? And there's a whole process there, right? I'm a big fan of Story Brand by Donald Miller, and I actually went through his coaching framework. I won't rehash that. So I'll just say, if anybody hasn't read that book, Story Brand by Donald Miller, I really recommend it. It's a great framework for sort of honing in a message that is going to be attractive to your ideal clients. But the really short version is your message can't be legal jargon based, right? You need to have a message that explains how you're going to make life better for your clients. What problem are you going to solve for them, or what opportunity are you going to help them take advantage of? But you need, to be able to distill in plain English, how do you make life better for your clients, right? And so that's the second M, which is message. And then the third leg of the stool is media. And that's just referring to what communication channel are you going to use to take your message, put it in front of your market. And listen, I'm media agnostic, right? If your best clients are hanging out on Facebook all day long, well, then that's a great place for you to be advertising. If they are on LinkedIn, then you should probably be on LinkedIn. If they don't do digital media, but they are very active in their local community, well, then you got to find out where they're hanging out, right? And you should probably be active in the Chamber of Commerce, the BNI. So it's really as simple as saying, okay, who are your ideal clients? What's the message to attract them? And then third is, where can you find them? Where do they spend their time? And if you don't know the answers to these questions, that exercise we just talked about, where you've got your top 5 clients, call them up, ask them if they're willing to spend 20 minutes with you, and ask them some questions. What do you do on the weekends? Are you part of your local church or religious community? Where do you spend your time? And that's where you want to be active. And so it may sound weird coming from a marketer, a marketing agency owner, but sometimes you don't need to go high tech. I always say the best clients come from referrals. I imagine you'd agree, Moshe, but I don't want to assume that. But generally speaking, clients who are referred, they convert at a higher rate. You're going to convert about 70% of referral opportunities versus 30% of leads from other sources. They're typically going to be better clients. They are typically more likely to make referrals themselves. So that's a great place to start growing your business, which is just, how do I get more referrals?
100%. Referrals are golden. The biggest challenge that law firms have is, as the business grows, referrals become less predictable and less scalable. We can argue that you can scale referrals as big as you want, but as the only marketing source for a firm that grows beyond just the solo or maybe first couple of attorneys in the door, that becomes a challenge, and you need to start looking at other media or other sources. So, but yeah, 100%.
I will say,
mastered referrals, that should be the first thing that you're doing.
Yeah. And I agree with that completely. And we sort of believe in building foundationally on that, right? So in my view, if you're a solo or kind of brand new law firm, honestly, you probably shouldn't be spending a bunch of money on digital ads. You probably should be hustling and building relationships and creating those referral opportunities. But then as you do start having more financial resources, and you do get to the point you just described, Moshe, where it's you have to get beyond just referrals, there are still some things you can do digitally that are going to help you get more referrals. For example, one of the lowest hanging fruits, and it amazes me how many law firms don't do this, is you've got a client list, right? And so a lot of law firms have an email newsletter or should have an email newsletter, just a way of staying in front of your clients and your referral sources. You can also load that list or give it to your marketing person and load that into Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and load that into LinkedIn. And for just a couple $100s a month, you can run ads that are just pushing your content, not to the outside world, people who have never heard of you, but just keeping your content in front of current clients, past clients, referral sources. You're always going to get the best ROI staying in front of those people. So all that to say, I agree with you that eventually you grow beyond referrals, but at the same time, a lot of law firms aren't doing the basic blocking and tackling that can really drive and maximize their referrals, if that makes sense.
100%. As a matter of fact, it's probably something that 90% of firms out there are not doing, even if they're investing. I mean, they could be investing $30,000 a month in digital, and they're not doing basic retargeting and basic advertising to their warmest market. Even if they're doing they're putting out the social media posts, they're putting out the newsletter, but they're not putting ad dollars behind it. And I think you're, I mean, you don't need my approval, but I'm seeing it myself with my clients that, when I talk to them about, retargeting, they're like, what is that? And then I tell them, you can retarget for like $100 a month. Like, it's not like this is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've never heard of somebody only charging $100 a month for something.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And to your point, they're out there spending 10 grand a month on ads to a cold audience. And it's like, man, you got to have a retargeting campaign happening. Like, it makes no sense. But agreed, we see it all the time. But anyways, it's about sort of building on that foundation. So to me, it starts with like networking and building relationships and serving your clients really well so that you turn them into raving fans, and then use your marketing to stay in front of them. And then you can start venturing out, right? So we do certainly get into running Google ads and Facebook ads, and we're seeing ChatGPT kind of explode as a lead source right now. So we do get into all of that, but it really does start with stay in front of your clients, past clients, people that vouch for you, make referrals. That's going to be your number one ROI.
All right. I love the direction of this conversation. You just threw out the magic words that everybody's like all in a buzz about. I mean, if you don't have ChatGPT on your phone, like you must be over the age of 60, or you might I don't know, even 60-year-olds are using ChatGPT. Talk to me about getting business through ChatGPT. Can you enlighten us on what does that look like? And I think more importantly, because I think I know where this is going, is how do you control that?
Yeah. Let me just preface it by saying this. I am not a bright, shiny object guy. I think that the marketing world in general is too bright, shiny object and gets away from fundamentals. So I am somebody who has spent the last 10 years often telling law firms, hey, listen, like, don't chase the bright, shiny object. But I will tell you, I think ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and Perplexity are by far the biggest marketing disruption, certainly that's happened in my career. I would argue that since the invention of the internet, it's probably going to end up being the second biggest, disruption. And what's happening is consumers are going to ChatGPT and they are asking for recommendations of law firms, right? And the numbers on how fast ChatGPT is growing blew me away a few months ago when I looked into it from this perspective. Right now, ChatGPT, depending on what estimate you believe, they're getting somewhere between 1 billion and 2 billion daily queries, right? 1 to 2 billion. It took Google 10 years to get to the 1 billion daily query mark. ChatGPT has done it in 2 years. So it is growing, 5 times faster than Google did, and Google was not exactly a slow-moving business. So and it's directly coming from search traffic. Again, conservatively, at least 10% of traffic that was going to Google is now going to ChatGPT. So I can't really overstate the magnitude of this shift. We are seeing it. Our clients are reporting that they are getting calls from ChatGPT. We are seeing it at Spotlight. We are getting inquiries from people who found us on ChatGPT. And so to your point, the literal $1 million question is, if you are a divorce law firm in Charlotte, how can you be one of the people that ChatGPT recommends when somebody asks?
And
Yeah.
The answer is
So the answer is there's about a dozen factors that play into it. But I will make it really simple. There are two things that really stand out. And listen, we could talk for an hour and a half on this, and then 6 months later, like the answers might change because this is happening so quickly. But ChatGPT is looking at positive reviews. So they are looking for businesses that have positive verified reviews on Google My Business, on Facebook, on even on Yelp, on legal directories. So they're looking for positive verified reviews. They're looking for accurate contact information. So if your law firm is listed as, the law offices of Danny Decker on Google, it needs to be the same on Facebook, the same on Twitter. It has to be consistent. Otherwise, you will confuse ChatGPT and it will not cite you. Then the biggest is you have to have original content on your website. And it needs to be content that is written in such a way that it's actually helpful for humans, not just search engine spiders. What ChatGPT is trying to do is answer questions. And so when you create content that answers questions, the questions that your clients are asking, that gives you a big leg up. I know we have time constraints, so I don't want to just rattle off, everything. I literally did a webinar last week and talked for about 90 minutes on this. We have put together, if I can throw a shameless plug out there, spotlightbranding.com/AI checklist. We are putting together a resource that kind of breaks down these various trust signals that encourage ChatGPT to recommend a given law firm. I'm happy to spend a little more time on it, but also want to be respectful of kind of your plan for the rest of this conversation.
No, 100%. I appreciate that. And then sure, that was more than enough. And folks, we're going to link that up in the show notes so you don't have to, jump out of the shower and write it down or, pull to the side of the road while you're driving to write this down. You can download that at your leisure later. Just go to profitwithlaw.com and check out the latest episode and you'll see it in the show notes. Yeah, this has been something that has been very interesting. I've almost seen like my colleagues on the internet, going out on Facebook or LinkedIn and posting like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe that ChatGPT knows about me," or that I'm recommended, or stuff like that. It's very interesting, but you can each go and test it yourself, right? Like just ask some questions that should respond with potentially your firm and see if you're the one that comes up.
Well, and the fascinating thing, Moshe, is where it's different than like how Google, operates is it's customizing its answers towards what it already knows of you. So if ChatGPT, because of the way I use it, knows that, let's say it puts me in the high net worth category, right? And I ask for a law firm, it is going to give me recommendations that are tailored towards high net worth clients. If it knows that I am a budget, economy guy, it's going to give me those answers. And so what that means is it's really, really important as you're creating website content, as you're writing blogs, that everything is geared towards the types of clients you want to attract, which is where, full circle to the beginning of this conversation, you've got to be clear on who the right clients are for your law firm. And then you've got to create content and resources that are helpful to them. And if you do that, you're actually way ahead of the crowd in terms of showing up when they go ask ChatGPT for help.
100%. I love it. And this is a great place for us to end this full circle moment of, hey, at the end of the day, it comes down to you being absolutely clear about who it is that you're looking for. And this is one of the reasons that I talk about in that episode that I referred to earlier, which is why choosing a niche will skyrocket your firm. Why did I call it that? Yes, I was already a genius back in 2019, but the reality is that everything that you do to bring in work into the business begins with the marketing message, the marketing campaign. And this is the same reason why I tell people don't build two practice areas at the same time. Because if you have $10,000 to spend in marketing, guess what you're going to do? You're going to split it. You're going to spend $5,000 here or $5,000 there. And now what? Now you get a diluted message for both of them, which ends up being no result instead of some result by combining forces. So you want to be really, really focused intensity on one thing only. So get really, really clear about which client you're trying to attract right now. And that's where you want to spend your focus. Don't dilute the message. Don't feel like, oh, look, I need to, on this platform, I need to talk to somebody else differently than I do on this platform. No, if your people are not there, don't be there. Show up where they are, be there, put the content out for them. And guess what? When you do those things, you've already checked the boxes on the checklist, right? You're going to show up in ChatGPT at the right place because you've already set yourself up with all of this information out there. You're the go-to person. Somebody who does a really good job at this shouldn't have to be trying to figure out how to get ChatGPT to refer them, because you should already be listed because you did these things. So if you haven't, then definitely you need your checklist. You go through that. And that's a great place for us to wrap up. Danny, the way I close out episodes, number one parting piece of advice or wisdom for our listeners. Number two, if they want to get in touch with you, learn how to possibly work with you, take next steps. I know you already gave a URL for a cheat sheet. Hopefully people are downloading that. Obviously that'll probably give them some contact information to you, but if they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, spotlightbranding.com is our website, and you can find my contact information there. I'm also active on LinkedIn and Facebook, and so you can find me there too. So easy enough. In terms of one piece of advice, I don't want to just repeat kind of what the drum we've been banging. So I would typically say, like, get clear on that ideal client. But since we've already talked about that, I'll say part two of that, which is really understanding your ideal client in terms of what motivates them. Like, why are they going to hire your law firm? What problem are they trying to solve in their life? It's not about you, Mr. Law Firm. Like, yes, you went to law school and you've got incredible credentials. At the end of the day, that's not why somebody makes a purchase decision. So have that conversation, call up, 5 of your ideal clients over the next few months and just ask them, why did you choose our law firm? What matters to you? What is important? How did we help? How did we make your life better? Like, really getting inside the head of your ideal clients is going to transform your marketing message, and it's going to make everything else you do work much better.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on what you just shared. One of the things that's lost in the art of client building and building your business in general is staying in communication with your clients. And as you grow, you tend to delegate all of the client interaction and communication with your team, and people are getting the work done and you're patting yourself on the back. But at the end of the day, the further that you are from that client conversation, the less powerful you become in being able to do all the things that you need to do as a leader. So one thing you should probably do is just have one call a week to just check in with a client and just have a conversation. Hey, how are things going? What's life like? Not, hey, I'm checking to see if my staff is doing a good job, but really just getting to know what's going on in their world, what's keeping them up at night, what are they doing for fun, those kinds of things, because just staying in touch with what's going on in your client's world is going to really help shape the vision that you have for your business moving forward. And that's something that an owner should never give up. Always own that client relationship. So that's my parting piece of advice, right on top of Danny's. But really awesome stuff. Really appreciate you being here. And folks, we're here every single Thursday with a brand new episode. So make sure you hit the subscribe button in your YouTube player, your podcast player, whatever it is, so that you get notified when we release a new episode. And if you're in the struggle right now, right? You're not sure what it is you need to do to get out of the muck that you're in, right? You've been working at it and you're basically getting the same results year in, year out, and you're trying to break above and break beyond where you are. We can help you. There's an absolutely free call. It's a 30-minute call. It is not a veiled sales conversation. Yes, if there is room for us to offer you something at the end, we'll book another call and we'll have that conversation. But we're literally showing up to that call to help you get the clarity you need so that you can break through this ceiling you're at or the plateau you're on and be able to achieve the next level. And it all starts with a free 30-minute call. On that call, we'll help you identify what it is that your absolute perfect vision for 12 months from now is, what is preventing you from being able to get to that vision, and what can you do to get through those obstacles and get beyond them. If this sounds like something that you need, Book it now, profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. We'll see you next week on our next episode. Take care.